You're listening to this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing, good people? Life is good. Let's break it down. I want to talk to you about Jaylen Brown, right? You got a guard, 6'1", coming in the Indiana Fever. Everybody kind of looked, who is this player? Where's she come from? It's a big time player, folks. Got a left-hander, put it on the floor. Can stroke it real good, shoots the three, shoots the mid-range, reads the floor real good. The game is meant to be played. Now, what you got? This one here for the Indiana Fever, you're going to get in the starting lineups. Well, that one there's got it. I think it's already met. Because if you look at Caitlin Clark, right, you got Caitlin, you got Mitchell, right, you got Bonner can go to the three, the shooting forward. That's a good play. You got Natasha Howard can go to the four. And then on top of that, okay, you got Boston can run at the five, right? And that gives you a lot of flexibility. Now, a lot of people don't understand, and they're telling, well, you're looking at this, Money Mike. Indiana Fever aren't going to be that good. I don't believe that, folks, because you got the intangibles, right? You're dealing with intangibles now that allow the Fever to be good, right? Because what all three of these players do, they face up really good, they pass really good, they all have the intangible of great hands, right? So you got to give Amy, you got to give Amber, and you got to give Kelly, and you also got Lynn Dunn in there. I mean, you got to give them credit, man. They went out and got three players with great hands, right? Because you got Butterfingers who's slipping through. Caitlin's going to throw the rock, right? So now what does that do, right? It gives you Cunningham, Sophia, right? That can come off the bench, right? You got Lexi Hole that can come off the bench, right? And you got Jaylen Brown that can come off the bench. So you got a starting five. This is why I'm trying to tell everybody doesn't understand the intangibles. I got a starting five. I got Caitlin Clark Mitchell. Okay, I got Bonner, right? It's going to stick it in there. I got Howard and I got Boston. That's my five, right? That's going to give a lot of people problems in the WNBA. I don't care who you are. I don't care how you say it. I don't care how you spit it, right? You're going to have problems when you're dealing with that, right? Because the game is a game. The game's a tough game. So if you don't know how to overset that with those five players, now, what do we got to do? We got Lexi Hole, right? You got Lexi Hole can come off the bench, right? And then you also got Jaylen Brown can come off the bench, right? So you got to look at that. These players can hit the bench, and then you got Cunningham, right? So you got three players that can come off that bench. That solidifies the Fever bench. Now, 4 and 5, there's going to be a couple more players, 4, 5, and 6, draftees or whatever, going to come off that bench. Now, let's look at why the Indiana Fever released Grace Berger, right? You got to look at that, right? Because Grace, the player that you got coming in is a left-hander. Now, when you look at left-handers, what they do and how they do it, I want to just show you, and I got my tab here, folks, so always remember I'm punching and looking. But here's what I want to tell you about is the fact that left-handers dominate the WNBA. I'm going to tell you. And the reason they dominate it because scientifically, it is so hard to guard a player that's going left. Your whole body has to go to your weak side of defense. That's the intangible. This player can put it on the floor, go downhill, makes great reads. All of these players that the Indiana Fever are bringing in, they're read and react players. Read and react players, right? So you got to read on the defense. You got to slide. You got to talk. You got to open it up. On offense, you got a lot of reads you got to make that are going to come out of this offense the Indiana Fever is going to run. Now, they let the cat out of the bag for Money Mike, and I'll tell you why. All I got to see is what kind of players you go get, and I know what kind of system you're going to run. That's all I got to see. I don't need to see the kids work out. I don't need to see the ladies play. I need to know what you do individually and how that's going to synchronize as a swimming team, right, when you're out there on the court, because that's what you're asking to do. You're saying, Indiana Fever, let's synchronize swim when we're on the court. Read and react means that, you know what, I could accept the screen, right? I could, do the slip, right? We can get the slip screen, or I can just flare it on out to the corner and take the shot, right? When you flare it out to the corner, then you got down screen exchange action going on. Now, here's what you're going to see that's going to be different with the Indiana Fever, because I know the type of players they got. You're going to see a lot of exchanging. It's going to be like, Pathetic Connecticut Sun did it really good. But then you got another tier that does the exchange and read and rack a little better, right? So you got Minnesota, right? So you got Minnesota plays read and react basketball really good, and that's how they eat. They capitalize on your weakness. Now, let's go a step further and say who does it better than anybody else, read and react. That's the New York Liberty, right? Because here's what you can do. You got a player, okay, named Stewart, that can play all five positions. Can play the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. Put it on the floor, get what done needs to be getting done, right? So when you get this type of action, here's what you got to do. You got to solidify that, and you got to counteract that on defense because those players have got to read New York. They got to read their exchanges, right? You got to read Becky, Las Vegas Aces. You got to read their exchanges, man. Because sometimes when you play this game to do it the right way, and you're educated on coaching the game, you could put a defense in that's going to force you to do what we want you to do. That's when you know teams are coached really good on the defensive end because they will force you to do what they want you to do. That's the game, folks. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Indiana Fever got a new roster. Okay, the lineup changes, but guess what? Read and react. That's what they're going to play. And it's going to be defense dictates offense, but we will read and react to what we can get. And we're going to execute. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're brought to you under Too Hot Radio, Too Hot Tickets, and that's also under the umbrella of Roc Nation Sports. We'll see you soon.